eukaryotic gene is not a reading frame because it consists of functional regions called exons and non-functional regions called introns. So what is splicing? The removal of non-coding introns and the joining of exons in a defined order for the formation of functional mRNA is called splicing. Hello dear students, welcome back to session 7 of this chapter 6 called Molecular Basis of Inheritance. What did we study in the last session? We studied about transcription in prokaryotes. In today's session, let us study about the transcription in eukaryotes. What is transcription? We have studied in the last session. Whatever genetic message is given by DNA is picked up by mRNA. So the genetic message that is transcribed from DNA to mRNA guiding to make a particular protein is called transcription. Thereon, mRNA transfers the genetic message to tRNA, that is the transfer RNA, which picks up that specific amino acid from the cytoplasmic pool and gives it to rRNA, that is ribosomal RNA, and ribosomal RNA will give those amino acids to ribosomes, and the ribosomes will arrange them in a particular sequence for a particular protein, and that whole process is called as translation. How is the process of transcription in case of eukaryotes? So eukaryotic gene, as we know, it is not a reading frame because it consists of functional regions called exons and non-functional regions called introns. So here you can see the message. So whatever genetic message is given, so DNA that encodes the Rho binding site here will make, and that is how it is going to pick up the RNA from the cytoplasmic pool. So eukaryotic gene is not a reading frame because it consists of functional regions called exons and non-functional regions called introns. So the eukaryotic gene synthesizes non-functional hnRNA, that is heterogeneous nuclear RNA. So that is heterogeneous nuclear RNA which undergoes splicing to become functional mRNA. hRNA undergoes what? Again, additional processing called capping and tailing. So I repeat, how is the process of transcription taking place in eukaryotes? As we know, eukaryotic gene is not a reading frame because it consists of two very important units. One is called the functional region called exons and the non-functional region called introns. So the eukaryotic gene synthesizes non-functional hnRNA, that is heterogeneous nuclear RNA, which will undergo splicing to become functional mRNA, and hRNA undergoes additional processing called capping and tailing. Now let us understand what is the difference between this capping and tailing. So how is the process of transcription in eukaryotes? Eukaryotic gene is not reading frame because it consists of functional regions called exons and non-functional regions called introns. So the eukaryotic gene synthesizes non-functional hnRNA and the nuclear RNA, which that is heterogeneous nuclear, which undergoes splicing to become what? Functional mRNA. hRNA undergoes additional processing. What do you use the word called? That is capping and tailing. Now, what is the difference between the capping and tailing? So in capping, an unusual nucleotide, that is methyl guanosine triphosphate, is added to the 5' end of hRNA. In tailing, adenylate residues are added to the 3' end. So what is the difference between capping and tailing? In case of transcription in eukaryotes, we find that in capping, an unusual nucleotide, what is the name of the nucleotide there? Methyl guanosine triphosphate is added to the 5' end of hnRNA. And in tailing, adenylate residues of around 200 to 30 base pairs are added to at the 3' end. And we know that eukaryotic gene is monocyst. Mono means what? Single. That is, The gene is monos, that is one gene synthesize one mRNA, hence the name monocistronic. As we know, eukaryotic gene is monocistronic, that is one gene synthesizes one mRNA. So like that there are 20 tRNAs to carry different 20 amino acids. So mRNA, one gene, one mRNA. So 20 genes, 20 mRNAs, and 20 mRNAs will come out from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, and each one will be each tRNA will be given a message by mRNA to pick that particular amino acid from the cytoplasmic pool. So there are at least 3 RNA polymerases in the nucleus, addition to the RNA polymerase found in the organelle. So the RNA polymerases transcribes RNAs, whereas the RNA polymerase 3 is responsible for transcription of tRNA, and the RNA polymerase 2 transcribes precursor of mRNA, that is hnRNA, that is heteronuclear RNA. So I repeat. So what is eukaryotic gene? The gene is monocistronic, that is one gene synthesizes one mRNA. So there are at least how many? 3 RNA polymerases. RNA polymerase 1, RNA polymerase 2 and RNA polymerase 3. So in addition to the RNA polymerase found in the nucleus, that is the RNA polymerase 1 transcribes RNAs, whereas the RNA polymerase 3 is responsible for the transcription of tRNA, and the RNA polymerase 2 transcribes precursor of mRNA, that is hnRNA. Now splicing. What is splicing? The removal of non-coding introns and the joining of exons in a defined order for the formation of functional mRNA is called splicing. So all these terms and terminologies in this particular chapter called molecular basis of inheritance is very important, like capping, tailing, introns, exons. Then we have splicing, right? Transcription, translation. All these are very, very important terms. So what is splicing? The removal of non-coding introns and the joining of exons in a defined order for the formation of functional mRNA is called splicing. So the phenomenon of RNA splicing was traced by Robert Sharp, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. See, a scientist by name Robert Sharp was awarded for this phenomenon of RNA splicing. So what is RNA splicing, or what is splicing? The removal of non-coding introns and the joining of exons, which are the coding sequences in a definite order for the formation of functional mRNA, is called splicing. And this phenomenon of RNA splicing was traced out by Robert Sharp, for which he was awarded the Nobel Prize. Hope you have understood what is transcription. Now moving on to the next very important, that is translation. See, here you can make out how the amino acids are arranged in a specific sequence. So here you can see how this is called the clover leaf model of tRNA. See here, one tRNA picks up one amino acid. So like this. So it is just like a bus, picking up the passengers and leaving them to the destination, and afterwards the empty bus goes back to the depot. In a similar way here, each tRNA will carry each amino acid and gives it to rRNA to ribosome. Then back the tRNA will come back to the cytoplasmic pool empty. So this is how, so here you can see how they are arranged. So here one amino acid is arranged here, so this will go and give one amino acid length. So like this, a particular sequence is made. This whole process is called as what? Translation. See, as I said, DNA to mRNA. mRNA will give the message to tRNA. From tRNA, it will go to rRNA. From rRNA to ribosomes to protein. So this whole process is called transcription. This whole process is called translation, right? Now, messenger mRNA carrying coded message for the synthesis of protein will be released into cytoplasm. See, DNA, after coding the genetic message to mRNA to make a particular protein, then mRNA comes out of the nucleus to the cytoplasm. What is found in the cytoplasm? tRNA, rRNA and ribosomes. So mRNA will go to that particular tRNA and guides tRNA to pick up that particular amino acid which is to be made a particular protein. So as I said, there is a particular sequence for a particular protein. So haphazardly the amino acids will not come and join. Here you can see there is a particular what has to come, what next amino acid, it is already defined by DNA to mRNA. So obviously that genetic message is carried by mRNA, comes out of the nucleus to the cytoplasm and guides tRNA to carry that specific amino acid that makes a particular protein. As I said, hair is a protein, nail is a protein. So each protein has a particular protein sequence. Right. So messenger RNA carrying coded message for the synthesis of protein will be released into cytoplasm. With the help of this mRNA, translation occurs in 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? One is called the activation of amino acid, initiation of polypeptide chain, elongation of polypeptide chain and termination of polypeptide chain. Activation of amino acids. So as I said, in the cytoplasmic pool, the amino acids will be in an inactivated state. So they will be activated and then picked up by tRNA, and that process is called activation of amino acid. Then initiation of polypeptide chain. What is polypeptide chain? It is nothing but a protein molecule. So the process of formation of a protein molecule will be initiated. Then elongation. So like that one amino acid keeps on adding like this. So like that a chain, elongation means a chain of amino acids are formed, and that is called elongation of polypeptide chain. For every beginning there is an end. So after the process of formation of a particular protein, the protein synthesis has to stop. So who will come and stop that protein synthesis? It is nothing but none other than the nonsense codons or the terminator codons, which will not code for any amino acids. So always the beginning of the protein synthesis will be methionine, that is AUG is the triplet codon, and the end will be the nonsense codons or the terminator codons. So what are the 4 very important steps for translation? First one is called activation of amino acid. Second one is called initiation of polypeptide chain. Third one is called elongation of polypeptide chain and termination of polypeptide chain. So what is translation? So whatever genetic message is given by DNA is picked up by mRNA, comes out of the nucleus to the cytoplasm and guides tRNA to pick up that particular amino acid from the cytoplasmic pool and give it to rRNA. From rRNA it will go to ribosomes, and ribosomes are the one which is going to, here you can see the ribosomes are the one which is going to arrange them in a particular sequence to make a particular protein. So there are 20 different amino acids required to make a particular protein. So obviously how many tRNAs will be there in the cytoplasmic pool? That is 20 tRNAs. So after 20 tRNAs picks up that particular amino acid and gives them to the rRNA, and rRNA will give to ribosome, and ribosome will arrange them in a particular sequence to make a particular protein. Thereon the empty, after giving the amino acids, the empty tRNAs will come back to the cytoplasmic pool. And the cloverleaf model, here you can see the amino acid binding site, and here you can see the anticodon, one arm of the cloverleaf model. So what are the 4 very important, and the whole process of translation takes place in 4 important steps. One is called activation of amino acid, initiation of polypeptide chain, elongation of polypeptide chain and termination of polypeptide chain. Now first very important event, activation of amino acid. So it is what is the very word itself will tell you. So the amino acid which are found in an inactivated state are activated by, then only the activated amino acids will be picked up by tRNA molecules. So it is a process in which amino acid combines with ATP in the presence of amino acyl synthetase and forms amino acyl AMP complex. Then only it will be called as what? Activated amino acid. When will it be called as activated amino acid? When amino acid combines with ATP in the presence of amino acyl enzyme called amino acyl synthetase to form a complex called amino acyl AMP complex. Then the activated amino acid will be picked up by specific tRNA. As I said, there are 20 tRNA molecule, there are 20 amino acids means 20 tRNAs, each carrying one amino acid. So the activated amino acid will be picked up by the specific tRNA molecule and for the amino acyl tRNA complex. So this process is called charging of tRNA. So this is how the tRNA will adapt to that particular amino acid, hence it is also called as what? Adapter RNA. So the activated amino acid will be picked up by specific tRNA molecule and for amino acyl tRNA complex. So this process is called as what? Charging of tRNA. That is, here you can make out amino acid plus ATP plus amino acyl, it forms a complex what? Amino acyl AMP complex. So amino acyl AMP complex plus tRNA forms what? Amino acyl tRNA. Hope you have understood. The first very important step in case of translation, that is activation of amino acid. What is it? It is a process in which the amino acid combines with ATP in the presence of amino acyl synthetase and forms amino acyl AMP complex. Next, the activated amino acid will be picked up by specific tRNA molecule and for amino acyl tRNA complex. So this process is called as what? Charging of tRNA. Now tRNA is ready to pick up the amino acid and go and give it to rRNA. So this is how amino acid plus ATP forms amino acyl AMP complex. Amino acyl AMP plus tRNA forms amino acyl tRNA. So this is the first very important step in translation. Now let us move on to the initiation of polypeptide chain. Next very important step in translation. So during this process, mRNA attaches to smaller ribosomal subunit. Then a tRNA carrying amino acid methionine attaches to the initiator codon, that is AUG. As I said, for any protein molecule, for any type of protein molecule, always the starter codon, the beginner will be always methionine having a triplet codon of AUG. It is a triplet codon coding for an amino acid, coding for an amino acid called methionine. So always this is called as the starter amino acid. So any protein molecule begins with this, which is nothing but methionine. So during this process, mRNA attaches to smaller ribosomal subunit, then a tRNA carrying an amino acid methionine attaches to the initiator codon AUG of mRNA at the P site. P site is called the peptidyl synthetase site. Now a larger as you know, ribosomes are of two units, larger unit and smaller subunit. So now the larger ribosomal subunit attaches to mRNA. This results in the formation of an initiation complex, and the initiation needs ATP and proteins called initiation factors, called IFs. So there are IFs, initiation factors, to make the chain very long. That is initiation of polypeptide chain. So an mRNA also has some additional sequences that are not translated, and they are referred to as untranslated regions called UTRs. So the UTRs are present at both end, 5' end and at 3' end. So 5' end before the start codon and 3' end after the stop codon. They are required for efficient translation process. So this is about the initiation of polypeptide chain. I repeat, during this process, mRNA attaches to smaller ribosomal subunit, and then a tRNA carrying an amino acid methionine attaches to the initiator codon AUG of mRNA at the P site. Now a larger ribosomal subunit attaches to the mRNA, and this results in the formation of an initiator complex. And what do you call that? And what is very much required? Initiation needs what? Initiation factors. Then mRNA also has some additional sequences that are not translated, and they are referred to as untranslated regions. So UTRs are untranslated regions present at both end, 5' end before start codon and 3' end after the stop codon. So they are required for what? For efficient translation. Moving on to the next very important, that is elongation of polypeptide chain. So what are the 4 very important steps in translation? First one is activation of amino acids. Second one is initiation of polypeptide chain. Third one is elongation of polypeptide chain. Fourth one is termination of polypeptide chain. So elongation, as soon as the sliding ribosomal subunits arrive at one of the terminator codons called UG. See, there are 4 terminator codons actually, UGA, UAA, UAG, which are called also as nonsense codons. What do you mean by nonsense codons? Codons which make no sense. Which make no sense. That means they are not coding for any amino acid. Not coding for any amino. So it is like, even if it goes, it means the whole protein synthesis will stop. Like for example, if AUG goes, it will start. Protein synthesis will start. If that is UAA, UAG and UG comes, means the whole process will stop. So protein synthesis is stopped with the association of the releasing factors called RF. See, initiation factors and releasing factors. Right. Now, next comes what? Chain termination. So all the components of the protein machinery get dismantled and the protein is released freely in the cytoplasm, and this is called chain termination. See, here you can see how after the process of formation, how the polypeptide chain is released into the cytoplasm. And here you can see the tRNA with amino acids attached. Here you can see how the protein molecule is formed, and later on, they get dispersed. So what is elongation of polypeptide chain? As soon as the sliding ribosomal subunits arrive at one of the terminator, arrive at one of the, so what will happen? One of the terminator codons will come and protein synthesis is stopped. So for example, so this is one amino acid, this is one amino, this is one amino acid. Here, like for example, UAA comes, then stops. Here it will, AUG comes means begins. Protein synthesis. Protein synthesis will begin when AUG comes. Protein synthesis will stop when UA. These are called as what? Nonsense codons. Or they are also called as terminator codons. Termination means what? Stopping. Right? Then chain termination, all the components of the protein machinery gets dismantled and the protein is released freely in the cytoplasm, and this is called chain termination. So hope you have understood the two very important process of transcription and translation. Definitely in your PU board question paper, definitely you are going to get either transcription or translation, or maybe together in brief. So this is a very, very important concept from examination point of view, which you need to learn the diagram that is given in the NCERT textbook, and also you should understand the concept. So repeated reading, in the first time only you may not be able to follow, but repeated reading of the process will help you to understand how this transcription and translation will take place together, which forms the central dogma of protein synthesis. Then moving on to the next very important concept called genetic code. As I said, all the genetic message is coded in the form of triplet codon. So, all of, like here, as I said, AUG is a triplet codon. What is triplet codon? Usage of 3 nitrogenous bases. 3 nitrogenous bases coding for a particular amino acid. Coding for a particular amino acid. So, what is genetic code? All the genetic information is always given in the form of triplet codon. We know there is singlet codon, doublet codon, but triplet codon. But how many amino acids are there? 20 amino acids are there. But singlet codon system, doublet codon system does not satisfy. Singlet codon system will satisfy only 4 amino acids, whereas doublet codon system will satisfy only 16 amino acids. But whereas the triplet codon system is going to satisfy 64 amino acids, which is more than sufficient for coding for 20 amino acids. So the triplet codon system is the system what we are following right now for the carrying on the genetic message. So what is genetic code? It is a combination of 3 nucleotides which codes for a particular amino acid. So how do we define the genetic code? It is a combination of three nucleotides. Here you can see AUG. AUG is adenine, uracil and guanine because it is transferred from DNA to mRNA. Obviously, the thymine of DNA is replaced by uracil of RNA. So, it is a combination of three nucleotides which codes for a particular amino acid. Now, let us understand in detail about this genetic code. What are the features of this genetic code? So, triplet codon system. As I said, three nucleotide bases specify one amino acid. This is accepted. As I said, how many amino acids are there? See, we have 4 nitrogenous bases, A, G, C, T. So, 4 nitrogenous bases. If it is we use for singlet codon system, it is not possible. For doublet codon system, it is not. But for triplet, we get 64 combinations. So here when we go for singlet codon system, we'll get only 4. Doublet, we get only 16. But for triplet, we get 64 combinations, which is more than sufficient for coding for 20 amino acids. So 64 combinations are possible and they can specify all amino acids. Of the 64 triplet codons, 61 are called sensible codons, whereas remaining 3 are called as what? Nonsense codons. So this was argued by George Gamow, a physicist, and the 3 codons are UAA, UGA, UAG. So this UAA, UGA and UAG, these are called as nonsense codons, or they're also called as terminator codons, which is not going to make code for any amino acids. So 61 code, these are the three. So 61 codes for amino acids. And these 3 will not code for any amino acid. This is not going to code for any amino acid and are called nonsense codons as they do not specify amino acids, and they're also called, you can also use the word called nonsense codons or terminator codons or stop codons. As I said, for every beginning there is an end, stop. So that there also, so always the beginner will be AUG, that is methionine. So as I said, always this will be AUG. And here UAA or anyone will come. So this is begins and this will stop. This whole process we call it as what? Protein synthesis. So Matthias Nierenberg and H.G. Khorana were responsible for deciphering this genetic code. Who were the scientists who deciphered, who brought about this genetic code, triplet codon system? It was Matthias Nierenberg and H.G. Khorana. And Khorana proposed the genetic code dictionary, and hence he was responsible for synthesizing RNA molecules with defined combinations. So that is what is the credit goes to Indian scientist, that is H.G. Khorana. Now let us understand the properties or the features of genetic code. So genetic code itself has certain features. As I said, the triplet codon system is the codon system what we are following right now for coding for a particular amino acid. So what are the important features of, and this is very important from examination point of view, which is asked for 2 marks. So very, very important. What are the features of genetic code? They will ask. So first one is genetic code is triplet. Second one is it is universal. It is non-overlapping. It is degeneracy or degenerative. Then it is non-ambiguous and it is comma-less. Now let us understand. So what are the very important 6 very important features of the genetic code? Genetic code is triplet. It is universal, it is non-overlapping, it is degeneracy or degenerative, then non-ambiguous, then it is comma-less. So let us understand the first very important feature of genetic code. What is triplet? Genetic code is always triplet means what? Usage of 3 nitrogenous bases coding for a particular amino acid. So always the genetic code is triplet. As I said, why we don't go for singlet codon, why we don't go for doublet codon system, and why the the genetic code is always in triplet codon because it is going to code for 64 amino acids. How many amino acids are required to make a protein? 20. So 64 combinations is more than sufficient to code for a 20 amino acids. Hence, the genetic code is always triplet. So, a sequence of 3 nucleotides on the DNA specify an amino acid. So, next, universal. A codon which codes for one amino acid codes for the same amino acid in all the living organisms. So, if, for example, UUU codes for phenylalanine, means it is the same code which is going to code for phenylalanine in all the organisms. So, that is what is called as universal. It will not change. So, I repeat, what is universal? A codon which codes for one amino acid codes for the same amino acid in all the living organisms. That is, UUU codes for phenylalanine. Next, non-overlapping. The nucleotide bases are a part of any one codon only. So, there is no overlapping, like it is not going to code for any other amino acid. So, there is no overlapping. Next, degenerate. Many codons specify one amino acid. For example, like alanine, see, there are different 4 types of codon systems. Here, GCU codes for alanine, GCC also, GCG also, then GCA is going to code for the same amino acid called alanine. That is degenerate. It can code more than one codon system. That property is called as degeneracy. Next, non-ambiguous. That is, the codons specify the same amino acid without making any mistake. So, there is no making any mistake in the usage of the 3 nitrogenous bases for a triplet codon in the genetic code. So, it is non-ambiguous. Next, it is commaless. So, the message is continuous. The very word itself will tell you. Pause. Comma means what? There is a small pause. So, here, no, commaless. Without commaless means what? The message is continuous on the mRNA without any breaks or pauses. So, I repeat. So, what are the properties or features of genetic code? Very important from examination point of view, which is asked for usually for 2 marks. So, the genetic code is triplet, genetic code is universal, genetic code is non-overlapping, then genetic code is degenerative or exhibits degeneracy, genetic code is non-ambiguous, and genetic code is comma-less. Then, so we can come across initiator codons, terminator codons, collinear codons, and genetic code is linear. So, what do you mean by initiator codon? The genetic code has an initiator codon. For example, I told you, AUG is the initiator codon which is going to code for a methionine. It is present at 5' end of the mRNA and starts the protein. For any protein molecule, the initiator codon or the starter codon will be AUG, which is going to code for a particular amino acid called methionine. Then terminator, as I said, these are the 3 terminator codons. So, when the protein synthesis begins with AUG, it will stop with UAA or UAG or UGA. If either of these 3 codons, nonsense codons or stop codons or terminator codons come and settle there, that means the whole protein synthesis has ended up. So, they are called as terminator codon. Collinear, the genetic code works on the principles of collinearity. That is, there is a clear relationship between DNA, mRNA and polypeptide chain and the nucleotide sequence of the amino acid sequence in polypeptide chain. So, genetic code is linear. The codons are linearly arranged and there is no overlapping. Hope you have understood all the concepts what I have explained in today's session, and I'll be coming back in the next session with a very, very important concept, that is Lac-Operon model, which is based on the concept like switch on and switch off method. So, I'll be back with this concept in the coming session. Till then, goodbye and thank you.